Welcome back, guys. So our next set of slides, we're going to be talking about the Transtheoretical Model of Change. And this is a big one. And a lot of coaching really draws upon these theories. And this is really dedicated to determining the stage of change that that client is in. And this can be really impactful in knowing and understanding the stage of change that the client is in is going to absolutely dictate the way that you're coaching this person, the questions that you're asking. So it's very helpful to have a good appreciation of where that person stands, so that way we know how to respond as a coach. Yes. So basically, this is a theory that, again, just it's dedicated to determining, okay, where is this person in their stage of change? Where are they in their readiness to actually move forward with some form of behavior change? And what it does is it actually breaks it down into 6 time-marked stages. And keep in mind, we have these 6 stages, but it really isn't linear by any means. And you're gonna see these clients kind of spiral up and then spiral down again, and then kind of spiral back up. And you are gonna see them kind of shift back and forth between stages depending on what they're working on. You know, they may even have one area that they are in one stage of change, and then there's another area that's really important to them, and they're still just contemplating, you know, am I even ready to do this? So you will see that it's this kind of fluid back and forth, that it's not really the set, you know, okay, well, I'm here, I made it. They are going to shift back and forth. This is really one of the most applied theories of behavior change. So again, you're going to find that you really pull upon this a lot in your coaching, and it can be very, very helpful in having a good, deep understanding of these stages of change, so that you really can apply that appropriately in your coaching sessions.
Yes, because you will not want to apply certain techniques in certain stages. Other stages you will want to apply that technique. So, and in terms of the national exam, they do have questions, scenario-based questions, and then they will ask you, what stage of change is this client in currently?
Right.
Yeah, so understand these well.
Yes, know them. And again, it is all situational. So it isn't just going to be pre-contemplation is blah, blah, blah. Right. They're going to give you a whole scenario, and then they're going to give you either a coach's response, and you're going to say, this is this type of stage of change, or they will give coach's response based on where you think that person is in their stage and what would be the most appropriate coach response here. So you do really want to have an understanding of what a coaching perspective looks like depending on what stage of change you're in. So that's a great point. Okay, stage 1, pre-contemplation. So this is that person that it's not even on their radar. They're not ready to change. They're not thinking about change. They're just kind of living life. And a lot of times they don't even know, okay, this is a thing that needs to be changed. Within pre-contemplation, though, sometimes you will see 2 types of people, and those 2 types are going to present as either that I won't change, and a lot of times they just don't think it's a problem, or it's not a problem enough for them. Right. You know, if you have your smoker, clearly we all know smoking is not the best thing for our health, yet you've got that person that's like, I will never stop smoking. I'm not going to do it. You know, and that's that pre-contemplation stage. But then you also have that person that's like, I can't. You know, they kind of in the back of their mind, I know that this is something that would be helpful for me, yet I can't. Say smoking. Yeah. I can't give it up. There's no way. I've tried over and over and over again. I can't give it up. And so that can't attitude is enough to really kind of keep them in that pre-contemplation of not moving forward, because they're just not, the thought of even trying to put things in place to maybe quit smoking, it's just not a reality right now. It's just too difficult. We can't even wrap our brain around it. I
think of it as I have almost zero confidence.
Right. Yeah.
That I can do this. So it's just I cannot.
Yep. Can't do it. It's just, I'm not even going to think about it because there's no way I can do this right now. So when we have those pre-contemplators, you know, what do you do?
Right.
They're not ready to change, and I'm a health coach having a discussion with them. You know, the best thing that we can do as the coach is just support them and support the stage. And it sounds so silly from a coaching perspective to support someone not wanting to change, but honestly, we know that that's going to be the best way to begin to move the needle and to move them. You know, they come to us and all anyone's ever done is told them how they have to change. And when someone actually just listens and supports them and values their stage of change that they're in right now, it's pretty amazing how that opens their mindset to maybe what is possible. And so again, in doing that, we're just going to listen. We're going to continue to build that rapport and maintain their trust, because a big part of when they feel ready to move forward is that they now have trust in us, that we're not going to push something on them, that we are truly appreciating them, we're appreciating where they are, and we are respecting their autonomy. And it is not up to us to make the decision that they need to change. And when we respect that autonomy, again, clients just feel valued and safe, and it just starts to open up all kinds of doors of what they would maybe be willing to do that never really kind of landed before. At this stage, you're going to find that they're not necessarily motivated by education. You know, this is a person walking down the street and they're handing you the flyer on whatever. You're like, this is one more piece of paper I have to recycle. You know, a lot of times you'll see that. It doesn't mean that with permission, we're not going to share things that are available. However, we're probably not going to see that be the game changer. So just kind of know that, you know, the education piece of it is not necessarily going to, oh, well, now that you've told me that, let me go ahead and, you know, X, Y, Z.
It's less well received in the pre-contemplation stage.
Great way to put it, yes.
Well, I struggled with those words. So and you may be wondering, well, if someone's in pre-contemplation, why would they end up in a health coach's office? So tell me a little bit more about your corporate work.
So Ray brings up a good point. So I do a lot of corporate coaching, and I do see people that they come in and they're like, I'm just here because they're making me be here. And you know, they really come in, and it's funny because I just finished, this is our year end this month, and I just finished with one of my gals today, and she's a smoker, and she really didn't have, smoking and A1C were the two biometrics that landed her with me. And our first time together, you know, I could tell that she was just really, you know, kind of staying back, and she didn't want to be here, and I'm just going to be honest, I'm just going through the motions, and I just listened to her and I actually thanked her. Well, thank you for being honest with me. I appreciate you telling me that. And it was amazing the way that she changed. And so I was just there for her. I listened. There were a lot of things when we went through the wellness wheel. She discovered that we didn't have to talk about smoking. We didn't have to talk about what she was putting in her body nutrition-wise. And there were a lot of things in organization that stood out to her. So we talked a lot about organization and all the things. So to say that, in me just listening and knowing that she was not ready to change, she was the definition of pre-contemplation when it came to her A1C and when it came to smoking, which were the two things that got her to me. Yet we just finished today, and her words were...
Is she the one who just texted you before we started this?
No.
Oh, okay.
That was a different one. She just left her biometrics for this year. This was our last session, and so when I was getting feedback from her, that's exactly what she said. And she said, I really appreciate that when I came to you, we didn't have to talk about my smoking. And that we were really able to work together in other areas that I never even knew were a part of my well-being. And so she actually thanked me for that. So it does speak volumes when we just support them. Again, it's not our job. it's not our job, it's not our burden to make them change. We ultimately can never make someone change their behavior.
Right.
We can't.
Right.
It has to be from them. And so to just have someone by her side for the first time not telling her how terrible smoking is and all the things that she already knows, and just shifting to a whole different area of health just meant the world to her. And now it carries over.
Yes.
And so she's so much more open to making changes in other areas just because we were able to really respect her autonomy and trust.
And you're also helping her to understand the process of behavior change, but in an area where she's comfortable.
Such a great point. Exactly.
And it plants a seed with your client of, well, knowledge of how to make a change that is sustainable. And so it moves them just one step closer to one day it's going to be smoking. And she's going to realize, wow, all the things I know how to do that I learned working with Beth, I can apply those in this area.
Yeah. Such a great point. Yeah. So there's our story on pre-contemplation.
Well, and the reason I made Beth talk about it is because I work with just a client. I don't work with corporate clients who are trying to save some money on insurance by seeing me or whatever. All of my clients have been private. So by the time they come to me, they're usually beyond pre-contemplation, and they're at least contemplating, or they wouldn't have called me in the first place. So I don't see a lot of pre-contemplation in the clients I work with, but I think you see a lot of it.
I do see a lot of it.
Yeah.
I do see a lot of it.
So you're kind of the expert.
You do get real good at listening.
I think you're the pre-contemplation expert.
But it is interesting. I mean, even when you go through the wellness wheel and they come back with that assessment.
Yes.
And again, we're so quick to diagnose and like start putting puzzle pieces together.
Yeah.
And what seems like something that is just like glaring out at you may not even be on their radar.
Right.
And so it's not our job to say, well, I don't know if you noticed. It really is our job to just let them be the guide, let them be the lead. Because again, they know what they're confident in doing and what they are ready to tackle. And so we just have to instill that trust in them. And then when they do go through those things, they begin to build that trust in themselves of like, oh my gosh, look at all of these things I was able to do when it came to my work environment. Maybe I can do some things. I got this. I got this. So that brings us to contemplation. And Ray brings up a good point. This is the big place where most people fall, is this contemplative state of, I'm considering making a change, yet, my life is going to look so different if I make a change. This is going to be hard. All of those kind of pros and cons. And this truly is just the ambivalent stage. And a lot of times the language that you're going to hear in this contemplative state is the I may. Well, I may start going to the gym. Well, I may start packing my lunch every day so that I'm not eating out quite as often. I might go swimming and try out that aerobics. And so it's just kind of that, mays and mights language is what's creeping in. And when they're contemplating, you may see that they consider actually taking some steps within 6 months or so. However, you're going to see some chronic contemplators, for sure.
I've been one myself.
Yes, exactly. I mean, we can all reflect back on something that it's like we really, really just want to make that change. My lifelong dream is to have this garden in my backyard. I've been contemplating this for years.
Maybe you need some health coaching around
I think I do, because the confidence isn't there. But there are those things that like we contemplate, and sometimes it's just the things that come with doing it just seem, just enough that we haven't really taken that first step. I tend to see more of the chronic contemplators, definitely in what I do. And really, we've put these time frames in there. There are a couple of exam questions, and Prochowski, in their books, they have all these times kind of laid out. However, you really do see there's flexibility in these times. We wanted to introduce you to those times, though, because they may show up on your exam, and we just didn't want that to be something that you had never seen before. So just know that as you're coaching, these are definitely not concrete time frames by any means, yet this is what some of the literature has shown, that there's some validity behind kind of some of these times. So in a few of these slides, we've thrown in those times just so you have seen it before and are familiar with it in case it does pop back up somewhere on an exam.
Yeah, well, one of my exam questions did have a time frame in the question, and then I had to pick the stage, but I knew that it hadn't been 6 months yet because they said something like, for 3 months, they blah, 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 whatever. And so I had to make sure I picked the one, I can't remember now exactly which one it was, but I knew this is the TTM time frame stuff. So you might have a question on the scenario of someone having done this for a couple of months, or they're thinking about a change within the next 6 months or something. So I'm like, okay, that's got to be contemplation.
Yeah. That's a good tip.
Yeah,
I
wish I could remember the question, but I can't.
3 months.
Yes.
Okay, so how do we coach this when we've got the contemplator in front of us? This is where using that decisional balance tool can be really helpful, particularly if you're seeing that they truly are just stuck in that phase and they just don't know what to do. This is a great time to pull out that decisional balance, and whether you actively do it and have them write it out, or just kind of as the coach go through, just kind of talk your way through that decisional balance. And we actually have a little video on decisional balance that we have uploaded in Teachable.
Yes.
That kind of goes through, again, that order that we talked a little bit about last time, and just the best way to tackle that decisional balance. So it can be really helpful in this stage.
Yeah.
We also want to normalize this stage. We're all ambivalent. I mean, think about every decision we've had to make. At some point, there's been ambivalence of weighing those pros and cons of what am I going to do. And so when we let them know, hey, guys, this is part of it. This is part of the change, and it is normal to feel this way. It can relieve some pressure because sometimes we get frustrated with, why can't I just take that next step? Why do I keep going back and forth of wanting to make this change yet I haven't made the change? And so it really can relieve some pressure on their end, to just, hey, it's okay.
Yeah, I see clients all the time you can almost see them like when you have the conversation that ambivalence is a part of the change process. So you're right where you need to be. If you're feeling ambivalent, great. You are already in the change process. And for them to realize that, this is not an end place where I'm going to be stuck forever. This is just one phase of the change process. And I'm normal. It's normal to be here. Then the relief you see on them. So it's very beneficial to help normalize this for your client.
Yeah, it is. And then we're also going to support past successes and then generate excitement around change. When you go through that decisional balance, you learn a lot about them and their pros for change. And so when we can really evoke some of that excitement around change and again support some of those past successes, when we reflect back on that person already has the resources they need to succeed. It's our job to pull those out and really let them see, hey, you've got this. If this is a change you truly want to make, you've got this. Look at what you've done in the past. Look at these strategies that you were able to pull in and really accomplish what you wanted to do. And so when we can bring those back into play, and it's funny how, as a coach, you'll notice, I don't know how they didn't see this,
Right. It's such a strength of theirs.
Yes, and it's funny how being on the other side, we tend to not give ourselves credit for anything. Right. And so when you bring light to that, it's like, oh, I never really thought about it that way. And then they really start to have a little bit more confidence, and you can see that some of that, you know, talk starts to shift in the, well, maybe I can do this, versus some of that sustained talk. And you start to see the scale tipping. Because true contemplation, you're almost getting the same amount of change talk and sustained talk.
Right.
And then what will happen is you're moving to that next stage. You start to see that scale kind of tip a little bit, and the language starts to change a little bit. And that's really where being mindful and being present, when we can pick up on that language, we can pick up on it and run with it, and really start to kind of allow that person to begin shifting into that next stage.
Yes.
Yeah. Which brings us to preparation. So again, this is when the scale has tipped, and we're like, okay, I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready to start doing some things.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to try this out. Yeah.
Yes.
This is the tipping from that to this is for me, the most exciting part of coaching.
Yeah. Because you can see the energy that they're, okay, let's do this. And so the ambivalence is kind of starting to go away. Like, okay, yep, let's do this. I'm ready. So some of the language you're going to hear now is the I wills. So we've kind of moved from the I mays and I mights to, okay, I will go to the gym at least twice this week. You know, so again, you've got that shift in language. If you're in preparation, usually you're ready to take a step within the next month. Yeah. So it's there. It's you know, it's enough that it's like, okay, I'm going to do this thing, you know, generally within the next month. So when we hit this stage, okay, how are we going to coach this? So this is where you're maybe going to see some requests for resources.
Right.
So this is where the information sheet may actually be helpful, as opposed to thrown in the recycle bin. Right. And again, we're going to honor that with permission. We're not necessarily going to be shoving all of these things at them, yet when they ask for certain resources, absolutely, that is part of our responsibility, is to help provide those or help guide them in a direction that will allow them to find those resources. And at this point, they're far more ready to read through them, take action on what they've learned. Because we know knowledge is power. I think that's what's so weird, is like when you're not going to tell me what to do. Because we all know knowledge is power, yet we have to be ready for the knowledge.
Right.
If we're not ready for the knowledge, it's powerless. You know, we're not. It's not going to be of any help at all.
We're even going to kind of fight back against it.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So this, you may see some requests for resources once we get to this stage. And so what are we going to do? Well, we're going to support their plan.
Yep.
You know, again, they're going to create the plan. They're going to create that next step. And then we're going to be there to really support it, get specific with it, make sure that they have everything that they need for that plan to actually come to fruition. So we're going to go over barriers. You know, what barriers do you foresee in this? You may start to see that they have some concerns, you know, that creep up. And so we're going to help them create backup plans. And again, when we talk about the structure of each session, this is what an ongoing session looks like. This is what we're going to do every time, is we're going to create the plan, we're going to figure out what barriers may come up, and then we're going to create backup plans to those barriers, and then we're going to figure out, okay, what's the accountability here? Yep. You know, how can you put support systems in place? How can we be of support to that person? Right. And so that preparation stage is really kind of the foundation of what an ongoing coaching session looks like as we're creating that next step that they're going to do that following week. Yeah. Okay, so that brings us to action. So this is when they're doing it. They're going to the gym. They're packing their lunch. They're, whatever it is. And so they're in the process of creating that new habit. So when we're in the action stage, we've been doing it for at least a month, and we're working on getting consistent with it. So the language you're going to hear here is I am. I am going to the gym. I am packing my lunch. They're doing it. They're doing the things. And so again, how are we going to support this? Pretty much the same way we're supporting the preparation. As they're going through, we're now going to focus on their strengths and values. When they come back to us, we're always going to be pulling upon that. What are some new resources that might be needed? They may be asking for that. What is their social support? Again, we're going to bring some of those theories back into play.
Right.
What are your social connections? Do you have role models in play? All of those things. Preparation is critical for the action to happen. And so again, when we're talking through those barriers and we're talking through those backup plans and we're getting very, very specific with what we're doing.
It's very detailed.
Very detailed. When we're working through and I'll have someone and they're like, okay, well, I'm going to go to the gym on Tuesday and Thursday. And so I ask them, well, what type of exercise are you going to do? And then, okay, well, I'm going to get on the treadmill. Okay.
For how long?
For how long?
Yes.
What are you going to do on the treadmill? Are you going to walk? Are you going to run? At what point in your day are you going to go? Okay. And, so the more specific you can get, the more it's going to happen. Because it's really easy to say, I'm going to go to the gym, and then it just kind of fizzles out. Yet when you have that plan laid out, word for word of exactly what's down to, okay, where are your gym clothes going to be before you go to the gym? Well, I guess maybe I'll take them to work with me. What kind of gym clothes do you have? I mean, you get super, super specific. So preparation is critical. And again, the more specific we can allow them to be, the success is more likely going to happen, which is then going to build the confidence. So it does kind of fall on us to, as long as we're fostering that preparation, then we're also fostering the confidence, because that's going to feed off of that when they become successful. And lapses are going to be common. We're going to see this. And this is where the learning happens, right? When, okay, well, I'm going to the gym at 5 a.m. My gym opens at 4:30. I'm going to get there at 5. I'm going to be able to do this before work. And then we talk the next week and they're like, that was terrible. I'll never set my alarms that early again. This is not happening. So this is where the learning occurs. And that's great. They're going to come in and see it as a failure. And we're going to say, no, if you didn't go at 5 a.m. and hate it, we would never know you hate it. So there's no bad step here. There's no misstep. It's all in learning. And the more we learn, the more we can move forward with a plan that's going to stick.
That's right. I think the two critical components are, you've nailed it, with being very specific on what they're doing, when they're doing it, how they're doing it, all the details, so they don't get on the treadmill and go, oh, well, am I just going to walk, or am I going to run, or am I going to try to do one of these programs, or get rid of all the unknowns for them. Get that specific. And the second most critical component is helping them to understand when they have a lapse, and we all do. We're doing something new. None of us do it exactly right the first time. And to help them understand it's not a failure, don't throw in the towel. Because that's what we tend to want to do, especially if it's something that we haven't felt great about in the past. We've tried before on our own without a health coach, without the support. We tend to say, well, I messed that up, I'm done. No, you just learned something else about yourself. Now you know more, now the plan can be even more specific. So I do think you've nailed it, with those being the two critical components of the action stage.
Yeah. So once we've been doing it for a while, we're moving into maintenance. Yes. So maintenance is when we can pretty much say, okay, this is now a habit. I'm doing this automatically. It's like brushing my teeth. I'm getting up and I go to the gym every Tuesday and Thursday. And you're gonna see maintenance typically for about 6 months following the behavior change. So until you get to that 6 months mark, you're not really gonna consider it maintenance.
Right.
And so the language around maintenance is that I still am. Yep, I'm still going to the gym every Tuesday and Thursday. It's just what I do. And you're gonna see that the client is very, very confident in that. There really isn't gonna be anything that gets in the way.
Right.
You know, a lot of those initial barriers, they've pretty much figured it out. You know, we've gotten specific enough with our plans and had enough, you know, oh, well, this didn't work and this did work, that we have a pretty solid structure of how we're doing that behavior on a consistent basis.
Right. It's kind of run into most of their obstacles at this point.
Yes.
And removed them or learned how to jump over them or whatever they needed to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So we're, you know, it's just the thing. This is what they're doing. And so at this point, you know, we're just there to help, again, support. You may see lapses. You know, I think we talked a little bit about this yesterday in class. You know, COVID showed us that there may be some lapses. You know, how many people did we encounter that were like, oh my gosh, I used to go to the gym every day and then my gym closed. And it's, you know, I'm a YMCA girl and I am the crazy 5 a.m. girl and I'm there. And it's been so fun to see. I say fun lightly because now there's people on my equipment that weren't there for a while. No, I'm teasing. It's exciting to see because you don't see a lot of new faces at 5 a.m. We all know each other. You know, it's a little family there at 5 a.m. Yet COVID really kind of threw a wrench in a lot of people's plans. And so it's been really fun to see once the gym opened and then the longer we were open, the faces are all back. You know, so it was like there were some folks who had some lapses there, yet they're coming back. They're getting back into that thing. And so, you know, typically if there is a lapse, once you're in that maintenance phase, it isn't anything that's going to throw you off the wagon forever.
Right.
Because it's been there long enough that it's not hard to pick it back up. It's honestly just getting back to, okay, well, my gym's open again, you know, or whatever that looks like. So you are going to see some lapses because life, you know, I have a sick mom. I had to move to a different city for 6 months and take care of my mom. Those are kind of the big things that interfere. And then once you're back in the groove, you just pick right up with it.
Right. And I liked what one of our students said, that once you've hit the maintenance stage, when you have a lapse or whatever, you miss it.
Yes.
You actually miss it.
I love that.
Yeah.
What a perfect way. What a perfect, you do, you miss it.
So I know you missed the gym when the pandemic hit.
Yes.
Yeah.
You do. Yeah. Yeah. That's a great way to describe it. So that leads us to termination. Now termination, you don't see it everywhere. I think there's a couple of books that don't have termination in it, but Bruchowski, they have termination as one of the final, and this is pretty much full ownership of the new behavior. You know, this would probably be the people who during COVID, okay, well, my gym's closed, what does this look like? You know, the people that were just at the track and all their winter clothes with, you know, purchased a sandbag and made my own weights, you know. So it's full ownership of that new behavior. And this truly is brushing the teeth, right? Like this is just part of your day. You don't even think about it.
Just do it.
You just do it. Exactly. Exactly. And you may find that they're ready to come back and tackle another area at this point because there isn't any mental energy that's going into the behavior at this point.
Yeah.
It's just what it is.
It's an ingrained habit at this point.
Right, right. And so the coaching strategies here are really, you know, this would be like an example of the end of coaching. Okay, well, backup plans. what do backup plans look like in the event of a lapse or a relapse? You know, what are some of the tools that you have in your toolkit moving forward just in case we have to move for a few weeks to take care of a sick loved one, or, you know, whatever that looks like. That is our last and final stage of the stage of change. And as you guys are going through this, if you have questions, please let us know. You know, reach out, and we can talk about this in our live class as well.
Yeah.
So just jot down any questions that you may have, and hopefully we're going through them enough to where, you know, you feel very comfortable with them, yet no, we're always here. And so if there's any questions or anything you want to bring up in class, absolutely bring that to us and we'll be happy to go through them. So we have one more set of slides on motivational interviewing. So we'll take a little break here and then we'll come back and we will go through some motivational interviewing.